What limiters do you use whilst mixing? Now, limiters are something that I don't personally use them that much. I will use compression all day long in mixing, obviously, but limiting, I'm not a massive fan of limiting unless I absolutely have to. I would rather use a compressor and turn up the ratio than go to a limiter. But if I do have to use a limiter for any reason, and there are some reasons that you will need to use a limiter, and if I do ever need to use a limiter, the limiter that I would use is the Sonable Smart Limit. And I say that because I'm really into the Sonable stuff at the moment. And it's not because of how the limiter sounds so much. And believe me, it rivals FabFilter L2, which is what I consider the industry standard for in-the-box limiters. It rivals that, and they are both as good as each other. The one good thing about the Sonable Smart Limiter is that it has brilliant visual aids. And I did a review recently about the Sonable Smart Comp, and the review is all about how it's a brilliant compressor, but it's made 100 times better because it uses such good visual aids. You can see exactly what's happening. And the same applies to Smart Limit. You can see exactly how that limiter is working. You can see exactly what it's limiting. You can see exactly what it's doing. One limiter that I was trying out was the SSL-X limit. Now, the SSL-X limit, it didn't feel like a hard limiter. It felt like something that was more of a kind of soft compression, soft limiting sort of thing, and or like just a soft clipping tool. And it wasn't like, I've got loads of them, and I've got loads that work brilliantly, and I'll use a compressor, the Smart Comp 2, for that sort of purpose. So the X limit kind of got pushed to one side, and I thought to myself, well, I need a limiter that's going to really rival kind of FabFilter, because I like the FabFilter L2 in the master. Brilliant. That is your limiter for mastering. But I'm not keen on it in the mix. I like to separate what tools I'm using on a master. If I'm doing any digital mastering, I like to separate the mastering tools to the mixing tools. It just processes better in my head. So I use the FabFilter L2 as a mastering limiter when I'm working in the box, but in the mix end, I will use the Sonable Smart Limit. I find it to be the good thing with the Smart Limit. Working with it in the box is there's a lot more you can do with the Smart Limiter. There's a lot of control that you can change the sound a lot more than you can with L2. I find you can get a better range of sound that kind of you might not need it for, like, a different sort of approach with Smart Limit. Can work with one sound, and a different approach can work with another sound. There's not like kind of, whereas L2 it seems more like you kind of have like it's a limiter that limits, and that might not necessarily work with one sound and it might work with another. Whereas I find with Smart Limit that it works with pretty much anything you want to throw at it. It can do a lot more than what L2 can do. That's why I'm using Sonable Smart Limit, and the visual aids on Smart Limit are very good, much like the compressor version.